Hi guys, I'm Selena, and today we will be going through a research article and seeing how it measures up against the CARS framework. So firstly, let's discuss which article I picked. So basically the one I've picked is Can playing Tetris help prevent PTSD if you've witnessed something traumatic? And the link to it is just in the bottom corner. We found it on the conversation. So let's discuss how it relates to psychology. So how it relates to psychology is that it talks about brain function, and memory. Again, it does this because it explores the idea and the theory that playing Tetris, which is a visual spatial task, shortly after experience a traumatic experience can impair the brain's function in processing and storing visual memories, and therefore, in result, reduce the reoccurrence of unwanted visual memories. So essentially, it works as a cognitive vaccine, meaning it can be used as an intervention method that's introduced post-trauma to prevent mental illness. So, in the article, how it explores this, it uses the example of if someone sees something traumatic like a car crash, if you got them to play this game Tetris 30 minutes, within 30 minutes of seeing this, essentially the functions that the brain uses to try to store the memories of the car crash is the same ones when you're playing Tetris. It tries to store those memories. So basically, it's the theory that Tetris can interrupt those processes and therefore reduce the reoccurrence of them. So from that, we can see that we've already talked about memory storage, and what parts of the brain are activated when seeing something like a car crash or a traumatic experience. So we relate it to the biology of science, and memory. Now we get into what the CARS framework actually is. So what is it? It's a tool that we use to differentiate between what's a high quality source of information and what's a low quality source of information. And it assesses this on four categories. The first one being credibility, and then accuracy, reasonableness, and then support. And each category has indicators for why it's either high quality or why it's either low quality. And we will give it a score based on each category, out of 5. And therefore, at the end of the article or at the end of this, we will have a score out of 20 for how credible, how accurate, how reasonable, and how much support this article has. So let's get into it. The first one is credibility. So do the authors have the expertise to speak on this topic? So let's discuss first who are the people who wrote this article. So this article was written by Daniel Bressington, who's a professor in mental health at Charles Darwin, and his colleague David A. Mitchell, a clinical professor at the School of Medicine, and the Faculty of Health Science at Charles Darwin University. So from that, we can see they both have experience and have worked in mental health or psychological science for at least a while. Upon further research, I found that Bressington is also a research supervisor for students who are exploring PTSD, and complex PTSD. So he has based his research from the past years on PTSD. So again, that's another factor, as to why he has some knowledge to speak on this topic. Furthermore, both authors have published over 100 journals within internationally peer-reviewed journals. So they also have experience in writing these articles. So there are many indicators for, such as valid credentials. I couldn't find any conflict of interest, so no bias. There's a formal structure and there's good grammar and a good spelling. The only indicator against is I couldn't find a peer review process for this specific article. So therefore we give it a 4 out of 5. Next, we move on to accuracy. So is the information that's presented, is it up to date, precise, and is it complete? So firstly, is it up to date? I would say yes, because it was published on the 16th of April, 2024. So this year in the last 2 months. And this is and it is the latest article to come out in relation to these studies. It has comprehensive definition of relative terms such as PTSD, Tetris, cognitive vaccine, and trauma, and it builds on previous studies. So the indicators for it, so it is timely and recent. It reports all the factual evidence and it's comprehensive. Just has a minimal acknowledgement of other views. So it doesn't explore just other reasons why or other factors. Well, not into depth at least. So for this, we will give it a 3 out of 5. Next, we move on to reasonableness. So basically it's asking us, is the information that's presented like is it unbiased and is it objective and is it logically sound? So once we read this article and once you like open it up, you will see that there's a disclosure statement present which states the authors do not work for, consult, like own shares, or receive funding from any company or organization that would benefit from this article. So from this, we can possibly just rule out that there is no bias, like as there's nothing that these authors could gain from posting this or posting this side of it or posting the information that they have found. And I couldn't find any reason that it would be biased with the authors, like if they have PTSD or if they have any stakes in Tetris or anything like that. So relatively unbiased or completely unbiased. There's the relative like evidence to support like all the claims that are made. So all the claims within the article have some sort of empirical like evidence to support them, and there are no like overclaims. So there's no exaggerated claims and there's no claims without any sort of support. It's consistent and fair in the sense that it does not showcase Tetris as the definitive answer for PTSD. So the article does state that Tetris is not a panacea for trauma and that and that intrusive thoughts are not completely eradicated by playing the game, and that PTSD has several symptoms that won't be improved by game playing. So if someone experiences PTSD-like symptoms, they need to seek professional help. So from this, we can see that it's fair and it's objective as they're not pushing an agenda and it's got internal consistency. So this ranks pretty highly, so I will give it a 5 out of 5. Lastly, we move on to support. So has the information been corroborated and is it consistent with other reputable sources? So with this one, what I found is this is quite a recent study, as Tetris is quite a recent thing, and as well as PTSD, I guess, like further studies into it. So there are other studies mentioned, but they're vaguely mentioned, like as the 2009 study, 2017, or recent studies. I couldn't find within the article that they mentioned who conducted these research, who was written by. But they do have the URL, the links that are provided, but you do have to do some of your own research to find out more about these studies. So that is one downside, that there is minimal citation to other studies, like in-depth citation. So the studies, though, conducted in 2009 made similar claims, though, to the more recent studies in 2017, and they also produced the similar results. So from that, though, we can gain that there is the supporting evidence and there is external consistency and corroboration. So pretty well within the support factor that it produces the similar results, but within the article of how it's written, it is minimal in how they present that. So for that one, I gave it a 4 out of 5. So all in all, this whole article, what I would rank it is a 16 out of 20, which is a fairly high score. It's pretty reasonable. It's very credible. It's mainly lacks on citations and the like accuracy, but that could all as well be because it is a very recent study. So it could go further within that. Thanks, guys.